Good day everyone, so we're going to play a bit of Clorinde with QiQi, and before I get into that, hopefully you'll forgive me because I just want to give you a bit of a short personal review on Clorinde. I think this character is said to be very bad from a meta perspective by a lot of people, and I don't understand why people are so obsessed with standing in a Bennett circle trying to beat the Abyss as fast as possible, because you get no reward, no incentive to do so. Genshin Impact is a game all about how you curate your experiences, and having the ability to try out new units with a new character that comes out with new mechanics that we can master, that I think is worthwhile. So hence I do not find Clorinde problematic, and also the fact is we can clear the Spiral Abyss, which is all that there is in the game. So enough yapping, let's get to what we really want to. You put up QiQi here with a clam set and a bit of energy recharge, you put up Zhongli with the tenacity, and then effectively you now go into Clorinde. You can choose your artifacts, but the whole point is we want to run the Skyward Blade, because the Skyward Blade is going to allow us to get those extra physical hits. Obviously they're going to trigger Superconduct with QiQi being on the team, and that means Clorinde is going to attack a bit faster. She gains Bond of Fly faster due to QiQi, and she'll be able to dish out more damage. So rather than these big massive 100k Arlecchino vaporizers, you're just going to get lots of little small numbers ticking up very quickly. But of course there's a trade-off, as you saw there with me playing around with the stats. If you try and use the Skyward Blade, you'll guarantee your elemental burst, but unfortunately you'll lose out on a bit of damage, which you'll hopefully make up because you're going to attack a bit faster. And this is exactly what we can see here with Clorinde. You can look at that Bond of Life built so quickly, and you were just like tearing through the enemies, which is incredibly fun. So there are a couple of nuances towards this team. You've got to be careful where you place your Zhongli pillar to get the tenacity effect, otherwise it might just break if you put it on the Magu. So a bit of positioning and just a bit of understanding where you need to play can just go a long way. And then a couple of other things to note as well. In the current Spiral Abyss, we've got a couple of single target enemies, which means it's a lot easier to use QiQi to apply the talisman. But if you look at the last floor, which we'll show in just a bit, you'll notice that to reapply that talisman to get that extra bit of healing and hence extra bit of Bond of Life on Clorinde, it's going to be tricky. You need to very actively manage what you're going to do with QiQi, because you're not always going to have her elemental burst, and sometimes proccing or letting that talisman proc onto the enemy is not always going to be as consistent, especially if you now have groups or waves of groups of enemies. You might get that talisman on one enemy, but you might miss it out on the other, and that could have some implications because you're not grouping the enemies with the current team. So there are a couple of caveats to be aware of. Ideally, you want a big single target or a bunch of enemies that are clumped up that are not going to die as easily, and hence you'll then get the full flavor of this team. And I think that is what this is all about. This is just to say, hey, we've got QiQi here, which has a talisman effect, and she can then obviously trigger lots of healing. A lot of people will always love quoting to me that QiQi is the better healer than Kokomi. Again, numbers don't matter. What matters is how you play it, and certainly in this case we can utilize QiQi's healing in a bit of a creative way. It took about 4 years for Hyo to properly put out a character, barring some fun stuff you can do with C6 Shenhe, which I'm not assuming for this video, but it took him a really long time to find a good niche to use. I like this little QiQi team just because, well, finally I can use or get to use a character that I've effectively paid for, if you think about it, and I've lost, and Hyo just did not give me the means. So this comes back to like a full circle to what I said in the beginning of the video. One of the problems we have in the game is that the Spiral Abyss, being the only endgame content, doesn't really offer you much in terms of experimenting or rewarding you for doing so, and hence the problem we could perhaps surmise is that the lack of content in the game, perhaps the format of the combat content, is really what gatekeeps the potential for some of the other units in the game, and it incentivizes things like Circle Impact, like using Arlecchino or Hyper Carries that do lots of damage over characters that are perhaps much more nuanced and difficult to play. And that's just the reality of the game we have. I wish people would complain more to Hyo about this, but it is what it is. In any case, so let me give you my verdict on the little QiQi team. Don't do it. I think the first problem you have is that for it to be really effective, you need more refinements on your Skyward Blade. You need strong artifacts on Clorinde, but you can just use the what do you call it, gladiator set, which everyone has. Because we've all found that, and I think if you've got a C2 Farina, it just makes it way more comfy. And never minding the fact that Farina herself is actually a significant source of damage as well for this team in terms of the off-field that she is contributing. So the mistake that a lot of people make is thinking that Clorinde herself is going to be the carry. She needs to be the one doing the damage, but in truth, this is a team game, and every single character contributes in some way. QiQi with the clam set, Clorinde with the obviously her electro set, etc., etc. So with that being said, this team is not as F2P accessible as I think some other teams might be, and hence I would only really put this out if you're a true endgame player and you want to have a bit of fun, extend your longevity, or you perhaps might be bored with Withering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, or etc., and you just want something fun to do. I think that is the point. Try and use this for the fun, and if it really doesn't work out for you, then just try some other variants like playing Clorinde with QiQi. Oh, by the way, before we end the video, I actually found a lot of success with Farina, Yelan, Clorinde, and then let's say someone like Jean. It's a bit of a taser variant, or you could throw in Kazuha. Look forward to that in the future, because I think that might be quite a bit of a fun video we can make as well. In any case, thank you guys so much for watching and watching me fail to exit on a fancy note here with Farina. I always love doing things like that. Alright, keep well.